Hi, this is Professor Favors. So I want to go over the required sources that are housed in eCampus. I'm not going to go through them in terms of content development. You do have two for which I have already gone over, which is the Mount Holyoke piece, and then as well as the Harvard Political Review. So what I want to do is sort of prepare you for the works cited page, and I'm going to go through each of the source materials, and the goal is just to um, determine what is the author, what is the title of work, what is the title of the website, and then you can continue on from there. So as you see here, these sources, these required sources, are not in formatted form, right? In MLA format. But you do have the links here, so do keep that in mind. Again, remember for your required sources, you already have the instructions, so you have to choose the Harvard Political Review. You have to choose all three sources for the colleges. So, why a women's college, Mount Holyoke? Why a women's college is a single-sex college? Okay. Vassar College was originally single-sex, but went coeducational in 1969. And Oberlin is a co-educational college, so you have to have all three. And then for the transgender source, you have to choose at least one. And I think I have the tabs open where I'm going to go through all of them in terms of just showing you how to format the source, or what to recognize in this audio first. And then I'm going to do a second audio where I actually screenshot what I looked at in this audio and show you how to format. So transgender source, just one. And then you have to choose all legal required sources. So this source here, University of Virginia case, Kristen v. Rector and visitors of University of Virginia, is essentially the court case that basically um, was about challenging the existing status quo, where you could only attend, if you were a female, a woman, the summer sessions, the research institutes, or something like that, but you couldn't. You were not considered a true student of University of Virginia. And for all of you who understand what that means, a true student of a university or college is fall and spring. Anybody can attend summer. So they wanted to begin attending more than uh, one summer session or one semester. Equal protection clause, remember, is about equal application of the law. Doesn't necessarily mean we are all equal, because we do live in a hierarchy. Hierarchy, and as well as a patriarchy. But it means it's just equal application of the law. So if this person over here, if this man over here can attend college in the U.S. as an American citizen, then I should be able to as a woman, right? 14th Amendment is your citizenship amendment. And then Title IX is essentially no public university can accept public funds, federal funds, um, and discriminate based upon sex. Now, what this means for uh, private institutions, that's a different story. So these are your required sources, and we sort of need to look at how to access the information on the page using the Purdue OWL in the next video, how to format for electronic sources. So some of your legal sources will actually have a different way to format them, and I do my best to try to make that happen. So, for instance, the end of the women's college, we see here that I didn't really type in Harvard Political Review as the article title, uh, as a search option. I know what the link is and I know how to access the information. However, if I typed in Harvard Political Review, the name of the journal, which is an online journal or online magazine, and it gave me different results, right? Then when I click the first result, it's going to land on the landing page, the home page of that Harvard Political Review. Well, I would have to search for this article, using this search here, right? If I didn't already have the link, I would have to search for it, right? And so then I would search for it maybe by the name Brian Burton, or the end of the women's college as the title. So I didn't have to do that, but that is something that you would have to understand, because then it is the page you land on where you take the information for the website address, the URL. It is the page you land on, not the home page, but the page you land on. Also, pay attention to the fact that we are accessing this page April 22nd, 2023. So remember that your access date is going to be 22 April 2023. This is written by Brian Burton, and its publication date October 30th, 2010. The title of the work is the end of the women's college. So the title of the work must match the URL. So you can't just put harvardpolitics.com. That's not where the article is housed. There's an actual URL for it. And then, of course, the title of the website would be Harvard Political Review. So pay attention to this, because you would have to be able to format the source. We have an author, we have a title of work, which is housed in a larger work called Harvard Political Review, the publication date, and the date that you accessed it. So I'm clicking out of this. So now I want to go to Mount Holyoke. And Mount Holyoke, why a women's college? And I did do an audio on this. And as if you take all your information from Mount Holyoke, everything here, because I stayed on this page and I think I did, and then I think I found some information about transgender, right? If you take all your information right here, then your URL is going to include Why a Women's College in the title. You do not have an author, but you do have a title of work, Why a Women's College. And then this information is found on the title of website, Why Mount Holyoke. Why Mount Holyoke? That's kind of strange. And then, of course, the sponsoring information is Mount Holyoke College, right? And then you don't have a publication date. And you usually find publication date or date of last update somewhere at the bottom, right? This is just a copyright date, so you don't necessarily need that date, okay? But usually if there's a last date of update, last revision date or something like that, it'll be at the bottom or very close to it, okay? So remember, title of work, you do not have an author here. If you clicked within this on this site and you found an article written by someone, then that person would be the author. And then, of course, the website would match the title of the work. This is title of work. And then we found this on Why Mount Holyoke, which is your title of website, meaning that this title of work is housed on this website of the larger website or sponsor Mount Holyoke. Okay, keep that in mind. Clicking out of this. Okay, so now we're in history of Vassar College, which is kind of tricky, because if you can click anything that you want on this page. You can click the news, right? See if I can click out of these cookies. But if you took all your information from here, then your URL, it should match, right? So then this will be title of work, which you place in quotation marks. You found this on the About tab. So the About will be title of website, and that will be italics. And then the sponsoring organization is always going to be Vassar College. Okay. And then you just continue on from there. Is there a last date of update? No, you don't have anything like that. And then, of course, your access date. If you wanted to click on, say, for instance, you wanted to take some information from news or any of the other tabs, just remember that that URL must match it. And I mean, that article. So let's click it for a minute. So we clicked on news, right? And we wanted to take an article from any one of these places. And so we just continue to click, because I don't want to click and then it messes up the audio. Whatever that is, remember that you found it on the news website, and that the sponsor organization is going to be Vassar. Okay, so keep that in mind, and I'm clicking out of it. So Oberlin University, Oberlin history. So I gave you some information about Oberlin, and then you have leadership, and then you have origins. Origins is always going to give you a lot of information about how it all started. So it just depends. If you just used Oberlin history as your title of work and you place it in quotation marks, then that will be enough, because whatever we wanted to find on this page, we can find it on our own. The more you go clicking, the more you might get lost, right? But that will be title of work. You don't have an author, so that will be title of work. And then title of website will be about Oberlin. That will be in italics. And then, of course, Oberlin College and Conservatory would be your sponsor organization. And then the date that you access the information. So the date you accessed it would be today if you accessed it today, but there is no date of last update. Okay, so that's Oberlin history, clicking out of it. Okay, so if we're looking at the one of the transgender documents, it's a PDF, and then you have key terms and concepts in understanding gender diversity and sexual orientation among students. When I went through this, now this is an informational guide and it's published, looks like, let me see about this series. This resource is part of a series of informational guides from Division 16, School Psychology, Division 44, Society for the Psychological Study of, and the American Psychological Association. The series promoting sets our best practices. So I don't see necessarily an author. I mean, there is someone who actually created this, right? And it could be just organizational. So it is a publication of the American Psychological Association. So if they're at the top right here, that means they are the ones who actually published it. And this was published in 2015. Okay. So we don't have a direct author, but the title of work then would be this whole thing that you see here in quotation marks. Okay. And then the title of the website, we don't necessarily have a title of website, but when we get to the um, publisher information, you can use American Psychological Association. There is a 2015 copyright, so you could put that right before your URL. And then, of course, your access date would be today. So don't forget your URL is a PDF. We do know that it's published by APA or American Psychological Association because the URL is an APA. Okay, so clicking out of this. Then we'd have the inside higher education information, and I don't want to get off of it because it won't allow me to get back in without an account. But women's college, and remember, you only need to choose one transgender source. So we have an author, Jaschik, comma Scott, right? Period. And then we have a title of work: women's colleges accept trans applicants. What about men's colleges? So that's all in quotation marks, the whole thing. And then that's your title of work. And remember, your title of work should match your URL. Okay. And then we have a publication date here that it was published on this date. And where is this information? Where did it derive from? This could be admissions, the title of website that you place in italics, but the sponsoring organization is going to be Inside Higher Ed, because Inside Higher Ed is part of the URL, and that's your sponsor information. Okay, clicking out of that. Okay, Morehouse College. Um, so this looks like, if we look at the URL uncf.org, they are sort of presenting this article. UNCF member institution, Morehouse College, and I'm looking for an article author, and I don't see that. So it looks like it's just available on the UNCF website. But Morehouse College to admit transgender men starting in 2020. So this will be your title of work, all in quotation marks. Okay, so you don't have an author here. Title of work. The title of website is going to be UN. No, title of website. Where I don't necessarily see a title of website. It would have been better for me to just find this starting. We'll just leave it here. No title of website. Maybe in my next video, I might discover it. But we do have a date of publication. We do have a sponsoring organization, UNCF. I think it's United Negro College Fund. Yeah, UNCF. That's your sponsoring organization. You could use the acronym or you can actually spell it out. Then, of course, your URL, right? And then the date that you access the information. Notice the difference between the date of publication and the date that you accessed it. All right, so clicking out. Okay, this is the legal case. Kirsten v. Rector and Visitors of University of Virginia, 309 F Supplement 184. So this gets a little tricky. I did find some information about how to do this. I try to stay closer to formatting for MLA, but So this is a suit. This is a suit brought by four young women to compel their admission to the College of Arts and Sciences of the University of Virginia at Charlottesville. It is also brought as a class action for the benefit of other persons similarly situated. All of the individual defendants, except the governor and the state superintendent, public instructional officers and trustees. So again, remember this was they were sort of blocked out of women were blocked out of attending University of Virginia at Charlottesville like regular people, like men, right? Men were the status quo. And so they brought this suit that you see here to compel admission. And so all of this is outlined in the PowerPoint. All right. So clicking out of here. Oh, and so when we go to do this, when we go to format for this, I have a screenshot of this next window here, and I found this information, University of Portland, Clark Library, MLA style ninth edition citation guide, government and legal documents. So government document from a website. Okay, way to cite that government document in print, a court decision. And so I'm assuming that the Kirsten versus Charlottesville, University of Virginia, is a court decision. And so this is the way that you would do it. Government entity as author, name of the case, date of the decision, title of container, publisher, URL if online. So government entity as author, United States Supreme Court, right? United States, Supreme Court. Name of the case, Brown v. Board of Education. Okay, that will be in italics, looks like. Date of the decision, 17 May 1954. The title of the container is where you found the information, so or where you accessed it. The title of the website, which will be Legal Information Institute, which is part of the Cornell University Law School. And then here's your URL here, right? And then you can easily add access date after this if you want to. And then how you cite it in text will be United States Supreme Court, right? In text quote, United States Supreme Court, and then italicized. Then, of course, say statute, government entity as author, name of the public law, title of container, date, pages, publisher, URL. And you just try to come very close to it. This is, no one is asking you to really be that perfect, but you do have to show me that you know that you try to actually format the source. United States Congress, Public Law 104, 191, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, that's your HIPAA. Governmentinfo.gov, meaning that's where you got the information. 1996, printing office, there is an actual U.S. government printing office, etc. Okay, so that's where I'm going to use that information for the next video. So clicking out of that, clicking out of that. And so then we are on the Equal Protection Clause website. We don't necessarily have an author here. Now, this is a good thing. The law is all persons are naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction of are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges of immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any to any persons within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. That's your actual definition of the equal protection clause. There's more to it, but that's basically this whole thing that you see here off to the left of the page of the screen is the full definition, right? The equal protection clause. Here, if you take any information from this side of the screen, this is a this is two people's interpretation of this law. The law is primary, their interpretation would be secondary. So if you do take something from them, you can't substitute what they are doing for what I need you to put in your paper. You still must put this in your paper and you still must quote it, right? But if you wanted to, I can't remember if the paper requires you or allows you to add additional sources. But if you can, and if you wanted to do a common interpretation, then you would need a separate entry on your works cited page for these two people here because they are interpreting the law. Their interpretation is secondary. The actual law is primary. So when you access this information, uh, just thinking about the law itself, the statute, the clauses, you do not have an author here that we see on this page, right? So that means you begin with the title of work, which would be formatted in quotation marks, the equal protection clause. Okay. Where we find this information looks like interpretation and debate, I guess, and that will be in italics. And then the sponsoring organization would be the National Constitution Center. You have a URL here, and then the date that you access this information. Okay, so make sure you understand the difference. This is the information you're supposed to quote. If all you did was quote this right here, this would suffice for your paper. If you go clicking any more areas on this page, it's going to take you to a different URL. Okay. But if the paper permits you to add additional sources, not substitute, and you wanted to take information from here, then you need two entries. You need one for the equal protection clause, and you need one for these two individuals and their common interpretation of it. Okay, clicking out. 14th Amendment. So remember, we mentioned Cornell Law School in another screen and the Legal Information Institute. So they're talking about the 14th Amendment here, or that information is on the webpage. And so the 14th Amendment addresses many aspects of citizenship and the rights of citizens. It's the most commonly used and frequently litigated phrase in the amendment is equal protection of the laws, which figures prominently in a wide variety of cases, right? Your actual definition of the 14th Amendment will be all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make, oh, and I just read this from the previous one, right? But if you're taking it from this information here, one is focusing on the equal protection clause, and one is still focusing on the uh, citizenship amendment. Okay, so when you want to take this information and create a entry for it, 14th Amendment, just as you see it here. Now you can spell it out as a proper noun, 14th, like spell the word 14th. Regardless, it's going to be formatted in quotation marks. That's your title of work. Okay. And then the title of website will be Legal Information Institute, which will be in italics. And then the sponsoring organization will be Cornell Law School. Then, of course, you accessed it on the date you accessed it. And I don't see any information about last date, update, or anything like that. And here's your URL. Okay. So clicking out. And then Title IX and sex discrimination, that's your um, legislation. So the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights enforces, among other statutes, Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972. Title IX protects people from discrimination based on sex in education programs or activities that receive federal financial assistance. So, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. That's your actual quoted information. Okay. So then, when we're looking at how to format this for the works cited page, you have a title of work here, Title IX, formatted in quotation marks, right? And then we found this on the Office for Civil Rights, that would be in italics. And then the sponsoring organization would be U.S. Department of Education. Okay. We actually do have a last date of update, which is August 2021. And then the URL that you see here, and then the date that you access the information. So it can get a little tricky, but you're looking for this. The one thing I was thinking about, now that we have to consider the transgender question, how transgender students might use the Title IX legislation, just like single women, single sex colleges, I mean, women of single sex colleges use the same amendment, same citizenship rights, equal protection clause, all of that to create a space for them. So that's something that you want to think about. So clicking out of that. Okay, so remember, these are your required sources housed on eCampus. If you have any questions, let me know. And then I'm going to do now the video where I added a screenshot and I'm going to attempt to format the source. All right. This is Professor Favors, English 1301, former research paper or single sex colleges. Thank you very much for listening.